There were so many people on social media said, would you consider Carmelo jersey being retired in the end? He is an all-time great, okay? He is going to the Hall of Fame. He is an all-time Knick. And honestly, if you would ask Melo, who would he rather go in the Hall of Fame as? And I don't think they do that in basketball, but
no, I don't think so.
If he did, I think he would pick the Knicks. I do. He was born in Brooklyn, but grew up in Baltimore, if you've heard the story. But he grew up a Knicks fan. And he followed the Knicks. And his career with the Denver Nuggets was good. I mean, he went to a Western Conference Finals with Allen Iverson, if you remember. I mean, that was a pretty good built team. I was very surprised that they didn't go to the finals that year. Carmelo never played in the finals. As good of a player he was, and he was a fantastic player. He really was, offensively. And the one year that the Knicks won 54 wins, he was a great defensive player that year. He was fantastic. He played everything that Mike Woodson wanted him to do, he did. But again, I look at Melo's career, there are some questions in his career. The whole Kevin Garnett thing about the Cheerios, about his wife. I mean, I thought that was very funny. By the way, congratulations to Kevin Garnett, because I thought that was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. I think Melo, as a New York Knick, he stood out. He did. I mean, he grew up a Bernard King fan, and he'll tell you that. I've had a conversation with Carmelo Anthony. I interviewed Carmelo Anthony years ago for 9 minutes. And I asked him, when you grew up, who was your favorite player? He said, Bernard King. And he said to me, if I tried to emulate a player in my career, it was Bernard. And he was better than Bernard King was. He really was. And Bernard King, if you never hurt his knee in his career as a New York Knick, he had 3 really good years, all-star years, and then his knee went out, and he was never the same player. Who knows what Bernard King would have been? But he was no Carmelo Anthony. If you ask me again, does Carmelo Anthony's jersey get hung up into the rafters with Patrick Ewing and all the Knicks greats? Yeah, I do. I believe he is a Knick great. Who would you pick over him of the greatest Knick players? Willis Reed, DeBusschere, Patrick Ewing, Clyde Frazier?
Maybe probably it. That's it. Definitively.
I mean, the rest of the guys that are up there, yeah, they were good players, but they weren't Carmelo Anthony.
Granted, Carmelo Anthony wasn't a homegrown Knick either.
No.
But he was there for a while.
Yes, he was the captain. He was the face of the organization.
And he was a true New Yorker.
Allen Houston's jersey was never lifted up in the. I don't think it was never.
I don't think so. No,
he's not an all-time great for the Knicks. He was a good player, but he was an all-time great.
And again, he's another one that he had that great peak with the Knicks, but again, he came from Detroit. He played a lot of his career there already.
Larry Johnson wasn't better than Carmelo Anthony.
And no, I don't think so either.
No, Snug.
And again,
think so. It wasn't.
Yes.
He was good with the Charlotte Hornets. When he went to the Knicks, he was a role player. Right. He hit that 4-point play. Everybody remembers. That was his best highlight as a New York Knick. Right. When Larry Johnson hit that 4-point play against the Pacers. That took them to the NBA Finals, and they got swept by the Spurs.
And again, for a guy that was an elite player in the league for as long as he was, with the Knicks and with the Nuggets too, like, that's an icon for your franchise, for both of those teams, and then it would be a tragedy if they don't retire that number. This is a guy that, through amidst all this dysfunction that the Knicks had in the 2010s, all the bad contracts that they had, James Dolan with his egregious things, all the bad coaches that they had, the whole Phil Jackson nonsense, and he was there for all that. He was there amidst all that.
If it wasn't for Phil Jackson, he would never got that contract.
Yeah, and again, you look at a player that still was consistently good at what he was doing for a long time. Like you said, he played defense in certain stretches when he had to. Like, yeah, he wasn't a world-class defensive player, but that whole season, both those playoff years, 11 and 2012 and 2012 and 2013, when they were a 2 seed, he played defense. He made good passes. He was a great player for a long time and consistently well. Yeah, you want to say, okay, he takes too many shots. He was taking bad shots at the end of games. That's going to happen with any NBA player. So you can't knock Carmelo Anthony, who's the 11th highest scorer in NBA history, for not wanting to shoot.
Also, when you compare those Knick teams of the mid 2000s, and we go through all those Knick teams and all those players, Amari Stoudemire couldn't stay healthy. And Amari's the one, if it wasn't for Amari Stoudemire, Carmelo Anthony would have never been a Knick. Even with the players that they had, the Raymond Feltons and all those guys, that team was nothing until Carmelo Anthony was traded to the Knicks. And he was Donnie Walsh's gift to the New York Knicks organization. Donnie Walsh took over, and there were so many people. Could you bring in a superstar? Could you get a superstar here to win? And when he made that move, and Amari Stoudemire took the $100 million contract, and he came to the Knicks, and trust me, Amari got what he wanted out of that deal. He was one of the best players in the league his first year as a Knick, and then he had those knee problems. If Amari never had those knee problems, and we had Amari Stoudemire at the prime of his career with Carmelo Anthony, the Knicks won a championship.